We are in truly dark times when it comes to respect for democracy. And to be clear, I am not just talking about the United States. Voters in 19 different countries, including 3 of the world's largest current democracies, are apparently, according to polls, widely skeptical of democracy, whether their elections in the countries are free and fair, and whether they want the leader the people choose or a strong leader who will do what they want, what they think they must, regardless of the individual nation's constitutions or legislatures or any of that. And so this is very worrying. And I want to give credit to the organization that did all of this polling around the globe. That's the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance. We're going to be quoting from their report in this. They say that democratic institutions are falling short of people's expectations and soon might fall outside of their realm of interest. In 17 countries, fewer than half of the people are satisfied with their governments. The survey included 3 of the largest democracies, as I said, that's Brazil, India, and the United States. Voters in 19 countries are widely skeptical, as I said. Many favor a strong, undemocratic leader. And the reason that I want to focus on this, and I hope that people, I know that much of our audience lives in the United States, will care about what's happening in these other countries, is because we see some of this here in the United States. We see more and more people, particularly Republicans, but not exclusively Republicans, starting to chafe at the restrictions of the Constitution and the law and checks and balances, and just wanting anyone to come in and do what they need to do. And often that translates as go after the groups that I've been taught to hate, unfortunately. So all of this is dark, but to see it happening in so many other states is very scary. Hey, I'm glad you're here. Listen, in order for the Damage Report to keep on going, we need viewers like you to become a member on YouTube. Can you click the join button on YouTube today? Thank you. Interestingly, the poorest in Brazil, Colombia, Romania, and Sierra Leone are more likely to approve of the government's performance than the rest of the population. So it might be that in some of these states, perhaps there are programs designed to fight against inequality and things like that. So, but it's an interesting thing because it implies that government action maybe can be linked to increased support, at least among some groups, for democracy. And I cite that because when we think about the United States and when we think about some of these other states, it isn't necessarily an unknowable mystery to figure out why some people are turning against the system of government that has run their country for decades or centuries. And I don't just mean people that agree with me. When you hear MAGA people talk about government, they will list a long line of grievances. And I don't necessarily know how much those grievances are actually resulting in their behavior, but they at least have them. They seem to have a problem with the government. And I think we can all agree that Republicans, when they get in office, don't do much. Democrats, when they get in office, often do far less than they say they will or that we think they need to. And we criticize that on a daily basis. But it's not like every day people are just reset and they come anew, fresh to the government. That stuff builds up. And when you have crises go unanswered, when you have inequality increase, when you have people feeling like they're following more and more behind financially, not just where they were a few years ago, but literally like behind past generations, that is going to have an effect. I know that we expect people to be apathetic, to not pay attention to things, to just sort of, go along or whatever. But people are savvy and they do accrue a view of the government. And that doesn't mean that I agree with the view that many of them apparently have been led to. All of these MAGA people who say that they're left behind, but then vote in Republicans who are gonna leave them further behind while passing tax cuts for the wealthy are sort of causing the government to go in the direction they say they don't want it to. But in the end, it leads to them wanting a person like Trump. And there are more and more places around the world where we're seeing something like that. Proto-authoritarian potential dictators in a number of these states. Some of them hiding a little bit more, some of them hiding a little bit less. Some of the rhetoric is a little bit more violent and bloodthirsty than here in the United States. In other states, particularly in Europe, theoretically, they're not as bloodthirsty. But you also see a lot of the same issues cropping up, and I don't think that that's a coincidence either. If you go back and study the rise of fascism, you study some of the hallmarks of fascism, there are definitely through lines. Even in countries that have very different histories, very different political cultures, they crop up for a reason. And they're not the cause of the turn against democracy, but they can be a symptom of it. And look, I don't have a solution necessarily other than, vague stuff like, hey, maybe the Democrats should start to actually deliver for the people. Maybe if they demonstrate to regular people that the government hears them and it can actually solve problems, maybe some people will have a little bit more faith in our government, and maybe they'll start to generate a little bit more faith in institutions more broadly. Maybe that's a solution here in the United States, and it might not work everywhere, but clearly simply going along on the trajectory we're on, it's not working for a lot of people, and not just here in America. By the way, just really fast before we move on, and I apologize, can we go to graphic 4? Because again, this story is not fundamentally about America. That said, more and more Americans are saying that violence might be necessary to save the country. They don't say for who. I think we all know who they mean. And I also just want to show this. We didn't get to this story or whatever. This is from 2 days ago. Many Americans who recently bought guns open to political violence, survey finds. And I just think that's the greatest headline. Oh, what a time we live in. But anyway, again, don't have a solution, but it's something that we definitely need to grapple with as individuals, certainly as a country, and perhaps as a species. Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.